Ever since I picked up the MonsterArts Godzilla 2024 figure, I discovered that I really like that mold, but I wish that I had the standard looking version rather than one that always looks like he's charging or firing his beam. I had a suspicion that the aftermarket for that original 2019 figure was kind of ridiculous at this point, so I didn't ever really look seriously. But when I was in San Diego and I went to the official Godzilla booth, it turns out that they were actually selling this guy. This is the 2019 night color version from the Tamashii Nation store. This is definitely one of the more controversial releases. I feel like when this guy was announced and came out, like everybody was dunking on, myself included, right? Like I was shit talking this thing. I just don't know why. So I hemmed and I hawed for a little bit and I was like, okay, like it's $80, like, you know, that's probably the most reasonable price I'm ever gonna get on something that looks like a standard version of this mold. So I decided to pick it up and I wanted to unpack it on camera to see, like, is it really as bad as I might have assumed it was? This is not meant to be like a super in-depth review of any kind. This is really just, I want to unbox this thing on camera and give you my knee-jerk reaction. If it falls apart, it falls apart. You know, I've kind of made the bed that I have to lay in now. So won't you join me on this journey and let's get this guy out of the box. All right, so here is the box for the 2019 Godzilla Night Color version. Now, you'll have to excuse some of the damage, some of the rips and tears. This thing was jammed into a suitcase full of stuff coming back from San Diego Comic-Con. Although some of these rips, I think, were there from the booth. But anyways, yeah, here's the pack. You can see across the top, Tamashii Nation store. Not sure why there was painter's tape. It might have been the last unit there. Not too sure. Yep, front, Tamashii Nation store. Nice shot of Godzilla. On the side there, MonsterArts Godzilla 2019 Night Color version. You've got the embossed Tamashii Nation's logos and the lightning bolts there. On the back, we have a nice laminated image of Godzilla himself, MonsterArts Godzilla. Not too much on the bottom. We have, I guess, the Bandai Namco sticker, which means it's been distributed by the US division of Bandai themselves. Now, I have not taken a look at this guy out of the package yet, although you'll notice that there are some cuts and some things. After purchasing the figure, Michael asked to take a look at it to determine whether or not this was the first or second production run of this figure, because apparently it was reissued and remade in Japan. So this is me actually taking the figure out for the first time. I have not opened the clamshell. I have not done anything of the sort. So there you have Godzilla in there, which is good. That's a good start. Actually, I didn't know that he came with alternate hands, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so let's see what we're dealing with here. Okay, clamshell opens. Moment of truth. Oh, well, I guess some of the hands got messed up. Okay, so he comes out in one piece, which is a good start. This is a very, very good start for the figure. He didn't explode upon pulling him out of the clamshell, which is a good start. If he's exploding out of the box, that's, you know, he's not supposed to do that. Okay, so thoughts, impressions. I'm not sure how much of the blue color is coming across on camera, but there's quite a bit of it. So there's a little bit of blue. To the naked eye, there's a lot of this subtle blue color coming down the spines, down the thigh here, down the thigh here, on the chest here as well. And then down the arms. There's a little bit of gloss here that I can see with my eye. I think that the camera's picking it up too. In weird light, like it's looking white, but then it's not white. So I'm not sure what's going on with that gloss there. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Thing's exploding on me. The joints out of the box feel quite stiff. They do, in fact, feel quite stiff. I know there was this big ongoing problem with the 2024 issue of the mold, where the tails were not really sitting in properly. I would like to think that that's not happening with this version. I also don't remember when the night color version was issued. I'm trying to do this through the viewfinder and it's just proving to be a little bit difficult. Okay, so I don't know whether or not that's gonna stay on or not. Signs point to no. Legs are quite tight. Yeah, not as fluid as my Godzilla 2024. Ooh, this shoulder is a little bit stuck. It's a little bit stiff. So this is the point where I'm going to say I don't really understand the night color version thematically. Like, is the idea that he's catching some of the lights reflecting off the city? I'll have to take another look at the movie, but I'm not really sure where this is, where this, the theme is coming from. I just really wanted a more standard-ish looking version of this sculpt, and I know that the 2019 is probably commanding a hefty chunk on the aftermarket. You know, leave it to Haya to issue like 5 different versions of their standard Godzilla 2019 or 2021. But then Tamashii only issues the original one and then this one. Yeah, so like there's this weird gloss that keeps getting caught on camera, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. It doesn't seem like there's a thoughtfulness to it. It just seems like maybe he got caught as somebody was moving a glossy brush away from him, and so some of it spilled here and spilled here. When you catch it in certain lights, like it's gonna look white. You can even see it's coming across here a little bit as well. So like that's kind of annoying. If there's a way for me to like scrape that off, I would definitely like to do that. Okay, so the tail's coming off there too. I think that this guy needs a good amount of time under a hairdryer to wake some of the joints up, get them moving without popping off. I have to ask myself, what would Michael do? That's a different joint that just popped off. Okay. Well, I know what Michael do. Michael would have bought 4 of these. Oh, look at him go. Oh, I think the tongue is like purple. Let me see. Is that coming across on camera? The tongue is kind of purplish. I kind of fuck with that, not gonna lie. Okay, I'm thinking I'm gonna need to hit this guy with some hot air. Maybe I'll play one of my longer videos. That should be enough hot air to loosen everything up. Oh, I should test the alternate hands before I wrap up here. Are these gonna go on nice and easy, or are they gonna be a pain in the ass? Let's see. Survey says, okay, they're gonna be a pain in the neck. I'm just going to leave that for the hair drying part as well. I guess before I do that, like, let's just get a closer look at the sculpt. At this point, it's been talked to death over how this is not a screen accurate version of the character. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of Haya figures that take care of that for you. So what's left in the wake of that? Well, you have something that's a little bit more stylistic, I suppose. It's definitely more flexible, like, you know, the ability to do that, for one. It's definitely not going to be to everybody's tastes, especially a night color version like this. There's another straggler piece of gloss there. I really wish I knew what that was. I really wish I knew where that had come from. So in the wake of not being the most screen accurate thing, what you have here is a much more articulated, expressive version of the character. If it's for you, that's cool. I'm quite happy with this, actually. I just need to wake up some of the joints a little bit. But for $80 US at the San Diego Comic-Con booth, you can get a Haya figure and then half of another Haya figure. So if that's more your jam, that's more your jam. So I've spent about a day fiddling with this guy, and I have to say, I really don't know what my problem was in being part of the crowd that was dunking on this thing. I don't know if it's just with time and there being other alternatives. You know, I have 4 versions of the Haya Legendary Godzilla mold at this point, so my screen accuracy Godzilla needs have been fully met, and maybe now I'm just able to take this guy in as something that's more stylistic, not nearly as screen accurate, but much more dynamic in how you can pose him and how much more expressive of a figure he can be. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't have a couple of issues. I've already talked a little bit about the gloss that seems to be randomly scattered throughout the figure. The gloss is strewn about in random locations, and if you're using your camera to get a shot, there's a chance that it'll reflect light back into the lens and make it look white when it's not white. And then on this copy in particular, the upper bicep joint here is a little bit loose. You can see what's going on there. I'm not sure what the issue is, and I tried popping this joint out and it didn't really want to come out, so I don't want to put too much stress on it. A lot of these joints are stiff out of the box. You saw me having some difficulties with the tail, and basically the part of the barbell that comes out and connects into the tail is much more stiffer than where the tail actually connects in. So as you're trying to move it, the tail joint is more likely to give than this joint is to move, and that's why the thing was popping out all over the place. It's actually quite secure. It's just you need to use a lot of support as you're moving that joint there, at least on my unit. And then the other issue with this figure being that it uses the new head sculpt as opposed to the one that was included with the original Godzilla 2019 figure. I think it's been all but confirmed at this point that they've lost the tooling for that original head. They made this tooling. I think en masse people don't like this head as much as that first head, but Tamashii doesn't really seem intent on replicating that original head any more than they have done here. I've looked at photos of that old head, and while I would have preferred that, I don't mind this one. It helps add a point of differentiation and again another layer of stylism. A couple years ago when this figure first came out, you might have been more pressed for a screen accurate version, but again, I think with other market alternatives out there, that there's less pressure on this guy to be the most accurate to how he appears in the movie. And there you have the 2019 Night Color version. Again, this is not meant to be a super in-depth review. This is just me taking him out of the box and seeing what he's about. And I think he's neat. I think he's cool. If you're not a fan of this mold, this deco is not going to do very much of anything to convince you. And for the life of me, I don't know why I dogged on this thing when it first was revealed. And also keeping in mind that this isn't exclusive for a physical retail store. Like, this is not a mass market product. I don't think it's meant to be for everybody. It's more like, hey, here's a special item with a slightly different color scheme. If you happen to be in the area, you know, you want a souvenir or whatever. My understanding is that this version that I got is still the first issue. I know Michael has done a lot of coverage on the difference between the first issue and then the second issue that was made over in Japan and has not yet been brought over. I can only imagine that the second production run over in Japan is popular for the same reason that I was kind of in the market for it, that there hasn't been another opportunity to get that standard default looking 2019 version. So when they made this one, I guess it was like, okay, that's close enough. For 80 bucks, you know, it's okay. I feel like the 2019 version being on the lower end, it was $70 US when it went up in 2019. So I think with US tax inflation, so the original one is supposed to be like $88 at this point. So, you know, he's $80. He doesn't include the beam or the alternate jaw, but he has the alternate hand. It seems like the right price to me. I imagine that not too many people have this guy, but if you do have this guy, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. So let me know in the comment section. And that's one more thing that I purchased from San Diego that I've covered here on the channel. I've got a couple more items. I don't know if I'll actually cover them, but we'll see. We'll see. Until then, though, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.